what did you make of Sophie Cunningham's flagrant foul on JC towards the end?
It was a flagrant foul.
You think it's like defending Caitlin or defending the team, or how do you view just how it all?
I view it as a flagrant foul.
That's about the game too.
Yeah, well, I mean, you guys came for basketball.
Yeah,
Let's
no,
talk
seriously.
about basketball.
Yeah.
Come on now.
What do you think of just how you all were able to pull in the second half, Caitlin in particular?
We're going to the Commissioner Cup Championship.
Let's
That's
go!
pretty exciting. Y'all want to talk about that? Let's talk about that.
What do you think, again, in the second half?
The WNBA is on the verge of sabotaging its own survival. Its biggest star, Caitlin Clark, is reportedly nearing a breaking point, and the whispers of her leaving grow louder by the day. This isn't just about rookie hazing. It's a story of on-court assaults ignored by officials, a jealous league that resents its own savior, and a media that blames the victim. Now, a shocking rumor is gaining traction. Clark may be planning her escape, a bold power move so defiant it could expose the WNBA's deepest flaws and leave the league scrambling to regain the very attention she single-handedly brought to it.
NBA record. This is her second season. And you put the numbers together, it's like 10 seasons. That girl did it in 10 seasons. That means she had won a season. Caitlin Clark is... when Caitlin Clark gets to 10 seasons, she's going to have 100 of these. And y'all can't get a girl her roses. Now, I don't like the fact that she be getting woke because she don't want all these lesbians to be mad at. But at the end of the day, is the woman putting in the work, she's putting in the work.
To understand why leaving is even on the table, you first have to grasp the sheer scale of her impact. The numbers don't just tell a story, they scream it from the rooftops. Before Caitlin Clark, the WNBA was a niche league fighting for airtime. After her arrival, it became appointment television. She's essentially a one-woman economic stimulus package. Arenas that once echoed with empty seats were suddenly sold out, not just in her home city of Indiana, but in every single city she visited. Opposing teams were forced to move games to larger NBA arenas just to accommodate the tidal wave of fans coming to see her play.
This is all going according to plan. This is ideal. Caitlin Clark is holding up her end by being awesome and by being a trash-talking jerk on the court. Love it. Her teammates are holding up their end by having her back. The other players in the league are holding up their end by not liking her. Perfect. Couldn't have written a better script. Caitlin is talking trash to this girl's hard fouling her. Her teammate Sophie Cunningham, who got a black belt in Taekwondo at the age of 6, she's like, I will F you guys up. All of it's great, and Caitlin's a killer. 10 out of 10.
Her jersey became the top selling of any athlete in any sport upon release. Viewership for WNBA games on major networks skyrocketed, with triple-digit percentage increases across the board. But the most damning evidence of her impact came when she was briefly sidelined with an injury, and league viewership instantly plummeted by a staggering 55%. Let that sink in. One player sits out, and more than half the entire TV audience for the entire league disappears. Caitlin Clark isn't just a team player, she is the market. She's single-handedly funding her own opposition and paying the salaries of the very players who seem to resent her for it.
Caitlin Clark is driving the WNBA insane. It's to the point that she may need to step away from the WNBA, have a billionaire come in that has the money to prove a point, and say, Caitlin, I'll pay you $50 million just to see if the WNBA can make it without you. Let's go create a complete different league and expose the hell out of the WNBA just to embarrass this Angel Reese girl that Jameel Hill just said she could go down as a Michael Jordan of WNBA.
But for all the money and attention she brought in, her welcome to the league felt less like a red carpet and more like a back alley. Ambushed. It quickly became clear that opponents had one primary defensive strategy: find out how much physical abuse she could take before she broke. This wasn't just tough, physical basketball, it was a targeted campaign. Every game turned into a highlight reel of hip checks, off-ball shoves, and aggressive closeouts that danced dangerously close to outright assault. The peak of this came with the now infamous shove from Marina Mabrey, who sent Caitlin flying with a full-body check, completely disconnected from the play.
But I will say this, when Caitlin Clark was out, they lost 55% of their viewership. So, like, basically, Caitlin Clark is paying all their salaries.
Pretty much.
I mean, at the end of the day, you can hate her as much as you want, but she's brought in millions of fucking dollars. So you should be kissing her ass.
And that kind of defeated the purpose of Angel Reese's argument of she's like, hey, it's not just Caitlin Clark that is bringing up the viewership to the WNBA. It's like, well, it definitely is. It's like, it kind of proved that with the viewership rating being down, that she significantly increases viewership with
They try so hard to compare her to Caitlin Clark. They try.
It was the kind of move you'd expect to see in a hockey game, not on a basketball court. Yet through it all, the most infuriating thing to Clark's detractors wasn't the shove itself. It was her response. She didn't retaliate. She didn't complain. She just got back up, dusted herself off, and went back to work. That her composure wasn't interpreted as professionalism. It was twisted into arrogance. And that only poured fuel on the fire, making the next hit even harder. The message was clear. You will not outshine us. And if we can't stop you with skill, we'll try to stop you with force.
Fever and Sun hold a brawl and a basketball game breaks out. This was something. Caitlin Clark, without question, gets raked across the face. I think she gets poked in the eye, but it's difficult to tell.
If you're the Indiana Fever, you cannot stand by and let that happen. They need to make it clear to the officials. If you're going to let this happen, then we're going to stand up for our player and make a mess of the game, and you're going to have a big mess on your hands. So you need to stand up for this. You need to do something about this.
You've just learned with definitive data and beyond question that Caitlin Clark controls more than half the audience for the entire WNBA.
But the hits on the court were only part of the story, because the people paid to enforce the rules were nowhere to be found. While Caitlin was being treated like a human pinata, referees looked the other way. Their whistles? Nowhere to be heard. Blatant aggressive fouls were either ignored or downgraded to common fouls, sending a clear signal to the rest of the league. It's open season, and the WNBA front office, the very institution that should have been protecting its golden goose, remained deafeningly silent. They were quicker to comment on dress code violations than to acknowledge the systematic targeting of the one player responsible for their league's explosion in popularity.
A lot of us were expecting some sort of dip since Caitlin Clark has been out with injury, but I don't think all of us were expecting the entire viewership of the entire WNBA to be down. And this tweet from Christine Brennan really stuck out to me. She said one player gets injured and more than half the TV audience for the entire league disappears. Has any other athlete ever had that kind of impact on a sport? Golf without Tiger definitely dropped precipitously on occasion, but not like this. This news is alarming for the league, and it's alarming for the league because this is such a crucial year for the WNBA.
What happened next was telling. The league's baffling inaction gave birth to a fan-led crusade, the Protect Caitlin Clark movement. Viewers turned into amateur forensic analysts, replaying clips in slow motion, circling illegal screens, and shouting into the digital void for flagrant fouls that would never come. It exposed a deep, unsettling hypocrisy at the heart of the WNBA. They wanted her marketing power, her ticket sales, and her TV ratings, but refused to give her even the basic protection afforded to any other player. This failure didn't just feel incompetent. It felt intentional, a silent endorsement of the on-court hazing.
I am sick and tired of the way they are treating my girl, Caitlin Clark. I am here to propose a solution. I think they need an enforcer. You know, someone who comes off the bench to kind of lay the smackdown on an opposing team member. I want to get the word out to the Indiana Fever that I am available. I'm ready to identify as whatever I need to in order to get the job. They need someone like me. Why? Because I'm not afraid of any 6-foot tall lesbian. I work out. Now, I have a couple of real good go-to moves in my bag of tricks.
And just when you thought the situation couldn't get any more absurd, the media stepped in, not to defend Caitlyn, but to blame her. Instead of calling out the dangerous plays, a bizarre narrative began to take shape among sports analysts and talking heads. The aggression, they claimed, was Caitlyn's own fault. She was too confident. She talked trash. She brought it on herself. It's an argument so fundamentally broken, it's hard to know where to begin. We're talking about professional sports, a world built on ego, competition, and psychological warfare. Michael Jordan was a legendary trash talker. Larry Bird built an entire career on mentally dismantling his opponents before tip-off.
Oh, it's this shit out the light. A snitch, nigga, it's this shit out the light.
You know, they get into it a bit here. Lexi Holdown gets it.
Oh, bitch, nigga.
Golden's face, Caitlin Clark hits the deck.
Sneak decides that's that shit out the light.
Sheldon and Cunningham are getting into it.
A snitch, nigga, that's that shit out the light.
Caitlin Clark with a few words with JC Shannon.
Their antics are celebrated, immortalized as signs of competitive fire. But when Caitlin Clark does the same, she's suddenly accused of violating some unwritten rule that makes her a fair target for physical retaliation. The double standard was blatant and infuriating for fans to witness. Commentators bent over backwards to justify violent shoves, dissecting Caitlyn's posture or attitude as if she had somehow asked for it. It was like blaming the mailbox for getting hit by a drunk driver. The message was twisted, but clear. In the WNBA, if you're a confident woman who backs it up, you deserve whatever comes your way.
Caitlin Clark has decided to quit the WNBA and move on and go play over in Europe. I do not blame her. I applaud it. I say do it. Get as far away from the WNBA as you can. Let that league sink. Okay, do not help them. Caitlin, get away. I believe you could create your own league. Okay, you could be the fucking player that creates whatever that professional women's basketball league. Let this one just go and let Caitlin try to build the next WNBA.
But this toxic environment wasn't limited to opposing teams. It seemed woven into the very fabric of the leagues. Veteran culture. The word of the day? Gatekeeping. A strange, self-defeating crusade emerged from some players who believed Caitlin Clark hadn't earned her stripes. Earned what, exactly? She was already the most famous and influential player in the league, bringing more attention and money to the WNBA in a few months than some franchises had in decades. The resentment was palpable. Players who had spent years fighting for recognition suddenly found themselves playing supporting roles in the Caitlin Clark show, and they didn't like it. The rivalry with Angel Reese and others was constantly spotlighted. But that was just a symptom of a much larger disease, a league-wide identity crisis. Instead of capitalizing on the once-in-a-generation opportunity Clark represented, a faction of players seemed more committed to putting her in her place. They were so obsessed with who the queen of the court was, they failed to realize the entire kingdom was on the verge of collapse without her.
I want to get your opinion because it's been a minute on this Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark stuff that's been going on. Brittany Griner a couple of weeks ago in a video says trash effing white girl when she was playing Caitlin Clark. What's your just kind of 30,000 foot view of this?
There is not an organization more dedicated and committed to self-imploding than the WNBA. The WNBA was like handed the golden egg that is Caitlin Clark. And they have done everything to just self-destruct. Whether it's these totally crazy like racial investigations that have been proven a hoax.
Which brings us back to the unthinkable rumor, the idea that Caitlin Clark might walk away. And it's here that the story takes a fascinating turn, from one of mistreatment to one of ultimate revenge. Two main scenarios have been floated by speculative fans and analysts. The first, the European escape. Clark could sign a multi-million-dollar deal overseas, where women's basketball stars are often treated with more respect and reverence. She'd be paid handsomely, protected by the league, and allowed to simply play basketball, far from the high school drama and political infighting of the WNBA. The second, far more dramatic, the billionaire's gambit. The theory goes that a wealthy investor watching the WNBA self-destruct could make Clark a shocking offer. I'll pay you $50 million to sit out and prove the WNBA can't survive without you. Or better yet, they fund an entirely new rival league with Caitlin. Clark as the face. A nuclear option. The most disruptive move in modern sports history. A direct challenge that wouldn't just expose the WNBA's fragility, but might build an entirely new empire on its ruins.
Caitlin Clark did her thing. Coming off of the injury, she returned for the Fever, and I swear I am not being hyperbolic. We were immediately gifted one of the greatest halves we have ever seen in the WNBA, and I say that with all context involved. This series from Caitlin Clark, the pull-up three here, and you are about to see back-to-back-to-back triples for Caitlin Clark in this game. I am not trying to erase the things we have seen from Maya Moore, from Diana Taurasi, Asia Wilson's 53-point game, Stewie, Cynthia Cooper. Like, we have seen incredible halves of basketball, but you see Caitlin Clark coming off of that made three from the Liberty. Pull-up, of course. She's making it in that.
Let's talk about the so-called rivalry the media and certain players are so desperate to manufacture. Every great sport has its legendary duels. Magic versus Bird, Federer vs Nadal. But those rivalries were built on a foundation of fierce, mutual respect. What's happening with Caitlin Clark? It's not a rivalry. It's a one-sided obsession. When Angel Reese delivered a flagrant foul to Clark's head, then was seen laughing and being celebrated on the bench, the truth was exposed. This isn't about competition. It's about animosity. Real rivals push each other to be better. They battle on the court and, more often than not, acknowledge each other's greatness off it. This, however, is different. This so-called rivalry is being used as a smokescreen, a justification for cheap shots, pettiness, and outright disrespect. Clark is focused on playing basketball and winning games. Some of her opponents, on the other hand, seem more focused on her. They've made it personal. And in doing so, they've cheapened the very idea of what a professional sports rivalry should be, turning what could have been compelling drama into a toxic spectacle. And perhaps the most infuriating part of this entire saga? The impossible standard of professionalism Clark is expected to meet. She's trapped in a classic no-win scenario. If she reacts to a hard foul, shows frustration, or argues a call, she's labeled immature, entitled, or not ready for the moment. But when she doesn't react, when she takes the hit, gets up, and walks away, she's accused of being arrogant, distant, or not a team player. There is no right way for her to respond. Every human emotion is twisted into a character flaw. Meanwhile, the players dishing out the hits, they face little to no scrutiny. Their behavior is shrugged off, even celebrated. This psychological game is relentless. Clark is expected to be the bigger person every single time. She's not just absorbing contact. She's absorbing the emotional weight of an entire league's insecurities, all while being judged for how she carries it. But this goes beyond Clark. The WNBA is engaging in long-term self-destruction. What message does this send to the next generation of stars? Every young girl playing college ball is watching this unfold. They see the league's biggest draw being treated like an outcast. They see her punished, not rewarded, for her success. Why would the next phenom want to join a league that cannibalizes its own? And it's not just players watching. Corporate sponsors, the financial lifeblood of any professional league, are paying attention to brands invest in growth, excitement, and positive narratives. They don't invest in petty infighting, PR disasters, and a product that looks unstable and unprofessional. By failing to protect Clark, the WNBA isn't just risking one player. It's damaging its brand, its future, and potentially driving away the stars and the money it desperately needs to survive. In the end, Caitlin Clark is stuck in an impossible paradox. The league needs her for its very survival, yet fosters a culture that punishes her for her greatness. She's the star of the show and the designated punching bag. If she stays, she's signing up for more of the same, more hard fouls, more silent whistles, more blame for things beyond her control. But if she leaves, it won't be an act of surrender. It will be a bold act of self-respect, a declaration that her talent, her health, and her worth are greater than what this league has been willing to offer. The WNBA is at a crossroads, staring at the golden ticket it was handed, and seemingly doing everything in its power to tear it up. So we're left with one final, sobering question. What happens the day after she leaves? When the arenas are half empty again, when the viewership collapses, when the media turns its attention elsewhere, what will that silence sound like? It will sound like a league finally forced to confront the star it drove away, becoming nothing. More than a trivia question about a phenomenon it was too proud, too bitter, and too broken to embrace.